My ex-girlfriend sent me a video of her cheating for our anniversary, then said, "This is how you made me feel when you looked at that barista." That was the exact moment I felt everything crumble. When I confronted her, she rolled her eyes and muttered, "You're not even defending yourself. God, you're even more pathetic than I remember." I said nothing. That was a year ago. This morning, she was sobbing in our apartment lobby as her parents dragged her away. My ex, Claire, was once the most loving woman I thought I'd ever meet. On our 3-year anniversary, she surprised me with a video of herself getting railed by the 6'3" guy from our local gym, Diego. I sat there in shock, staring at my screen. "The way you feel right now," she said, "that's how I felt when you made eye contact with that barista at the cafe." Fast forward to a year later, she asked to meet up. I said yes. She thought I was hoping to patch things up. Really, I just wanted to introduce her to her future brother-in-law. Vanessa strutted into Starbucks wearing a dress so tiny it could have passed for a napkin. "Oh wow, you actually showed up. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. You probably don't have anything better to do." She threw her plastic-laced face back and laughed. "Still wearing that hideous shirt?" she said, pointing at me with her 2-inch acrylic nail. "At least you're consistent." "Anyway," she said, flipping her hair, "I wanted to clear the air." I nodded, thinking her ego trip was finally over. She dressed tiny dresses and high heels. How much longer do you think she can pull that off?" "I just want to say I'm sorry for everything that happened. I've done a lot of work on myself, and I hope you've moved on." For half a second, I almost felt guilty for all the things I'd thought about her, for being secretly engaged to her sister, until she pulled out her massive black iPhone. "Because all of these men," she began, scrolling through her camera roll, "were part of my healing journey. First was Ben, an investment banker. He taught me that men actually can find the love button." I guess she thought my horrified curiosity was admiration, because then came more. Chris with his yacht, Malik with his Tesla, each one followed by a casual jab about their size compared to mine. That's when I fully grasped how strong the rose-colored glasses effect can be. "Good for you," I murmured. She leaned back, eyes gleaming. "Aw, are you still hung up on me?" she asked, full of smug confidence. "Even my socially awkward sister managed to find someone. Isabel, remember how clingy she used to be? She thinks her fake charm and looks will carry her through life." Even now, Vanessa couldn't say Isabel's name without bleeding insecurity. "Speaking of sad, are you even trying to date, or are you still holding out hope I'll take you back?" She pinched my arm, then laughed so hard she spit out her water. "Haha, still a scrawny little twig? No wonder you're alone." I could have crushed her with a single sentence, but I stayed silent. Not because I didn't want to make her cry, I did, but because I knew Isabel would have wanted me to show empathy. Vanessa squinted at me. "You're not even defending yourself? God, you're even more pathetic than I remember. Did I really break you that badly?" She laughed again. "Isabel will never get it. It's a dog-eat-dog world." Then she did something unforgivable. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small box, the watch I had saved for months to buy her on our anniversary. "I've been meaning to return this," she said. Then she opened the box and dropped the watch on the floor, deliberately grinding it under her heel. "Tyler got me a Rolex. A real man knows how to treat a woman. Even Isabel's loser boyfriend probably outshines you." Then she kicked the shattered pieces toward me, as if I expected her to clean them up. Her phone rang. Isabel's name lit up on her screen. Vanessa's face tightened in irritation. "Ugh, what does perfect Isabel want now?" She declined the call. "Probably wants to brag again. Her job, her man, her perfect little life." She just changed her relationship status on Facebook, you know. I wanted to slam my head into the table until I went deaf, just to escape her voice, but that wasn't an option. So instead, I played with my engagement ring and let my mind drift somewhere, anywhere else. That was all it took to shut her up. Her eyes locked onto my ring, widening. "You're engaged?" Claire laughed, but it came out brittle. "Who? You actually know her?" "Yes," I said simply. "It's Isabel." The color drained from her face like a switch had been flipped. Her mouth opened and closed, words failing her. Her hand trembled as she snatched up her phone and began frantically scrolling through Isabel's Facebook. There it was, posted that morning, a photo of Isabel's hand with the ring, captioned, "Can't wait to marry my best friend." People around us started to glance over as Claire began to unravel.
"How long have you been screwing my hoe sister?" she spat. The moment I saw her hand reach toward the glass of water, probably to throw it, I stood and walked out. Good riddance. Unfortunately for me, Isabel is kind to a fault, beautiful inside and out, and she insisted on inviting Claire to our wedding. It was only then I realized just how completely unhinged her sister really was. The wedding was supposed to be perfect. Isabel had poured herself into every detail for months, down to the flower arrangements and seating plan. She even gave Claire a +1, hoping it might ease some of the past tension. I should have known better. The ceremony itself was smooth. Claire sat in the back row, wearing sunglasses indoors and scrolling through her phone during our vows. At least she hadn't caused a scene. Yet. That all changed at the reception. I was chatting with one of Isabel's cousins when a ripple of gasps echoed through the venue. I turned toward the entrance, and there stood Claire wearing a white dress nearly identical to Isabel's wedding gown. Same lace details, same silhouette. She already had a champagne glass in hand and shouted, "Oops, totally forgot about the dress code." Isabel's face collapsed. Her mother rushed over and whispered furiously at Claire, who just gave a careless shrug and strolled over to the bar. 5 minutes later, I found Isabel in the bathroom, trapped near the sinks by Claire. Mascara ran down Claire's cheeks as she hissed at her sister. I caught the tail end of her venom, something about Isabel stealing her leftovers. I stepped between them. Claire stumbled back, nearly spilling her drink. Then came the toast disaster. Before the best man could even stand, Claire had seized the microphone. She swayed a little, tapped it twice, and launched into what she claimed were funny memories from my relationship with her. The room froze as she recounted in excruciating detail intimate moments and my alleged shortcomings. My uncle finally managed to wrestle the mic from her midway through some drunken ramble, but the damage was done. Later, during the coat check mess, Isabel's parents pulled me aside. Her mother's hand shook as she showed me her phone, a chain of texts from Claire spanning weeks. They were filled with concerns about our marriage, warnings about who I really was, screenshots of old arguments, even accusations of control and manipulation. I excused myself and stepped outside to breathe. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a few smokers lingering near the entrance. Then I heard the sound of heels clicking behind me. Claire had followed me, barefoot now, holding one of her heels like a weapon. She waved it in my direction, slurring accusations, stumbling forward. The security cameras on the light posts blinked silently, recording everything. The next morning should have been calm. Isabel and I arrived at brunch looking exhausted, trying to salvage something from the chaos. Then Claire walked in, 20 minutes late, dragging a guy named Jason, some new fling. They sat at the table next to ours, and Claire began loudly describing their sex life in graphic detail, clearly making sure we could hear every word. We had our honeymoon flight that afternoon. At the airport check-in counter, as we were tagging our bags, Claire reappeared. She accidentally bumped into Isabel, spilling coffee all over her carry-on. Jason stood behind her, looking mortified. Claire just laughed it off like nothing had happened. We hoped distance would help. 2 weeks away gave us some peace, but when we returned, our elderly neighbor approached us. I've seen Claire's car parked outside at 3 a.m. several nights. It made me nervous, so I took pictures. 3 days after we got home, the mailbox incident happened. I went to grab the mail and found it overflowing with pages, hundreds of printed screenshots. Every text Claire and I had exchanged during our relationship, some highlighted, others marked with angry scrawls in the margins. Isabel discovered the email harassment after returning to work. Her inbox was flooded with anonymous messages, warnings about me, accusations, twisted retellings of the past.
Details only Claire could have known. Stories distorted to make me look like a monster. Isabel's coworkers received similar emails. But it was the doorbell camera footage that truly shook us. Our new Ring camera caught Claire at 2 a.m. trying different keys in our front door. She wasn't drunk. She was deliberate, careful. One key after another. None worked. Then she just stood there, motionless, staring at the door for 5 full minutes. The next evening, a text came through from Jason. It was short and direct. He was done. Claire was unraveling, he said. We should be careful. I saved the message. Even simple errands became a nightmare. At the grocery store, she would appear in every aisle moments after we arrived. She took photos of our cart, pretending to text. When we changed stores, she followed us there too. Then my boss called me into his office. Someone claiming to be my wife had been calling in, raising concerns about my mental health. The caller ID showed Isabel's number. It had been spoofed. My boss knew it wasn't really her, but wanted me to be aware. Then there was Isabel's book club. They met monthly, rotating between homes. Claire joined the next meeting after we returned from our honeymoon. She spent the entire night talking about how her ex had betrayed her with her sister. The other women sat in stunned silence, unsure how to react. We began couples therapy to cope with the growing stress. Claire somehow booked the time slot immediately after hours, same therapist. We ran into her in the waiting room. She acted shocked to see us, putting on a dramatic show. Then Sarah, Isabel's best friend since college, called us one night crying. Claire had been messaging her for weeks, warning me about me. She claimed I was abusive, controlling, manipulative. Sarah saved the screenshots. The messages were obsessive, relentless. Basketball league on Thursdays had been my escape, until Claire started showing up, pretending to watch. Then she began dating Ben, one of my teammates. It was obvious she'd stalked the game schedule to find him. The anniversary dinner ambush was planned with precision. It was Isabel's parents' 30th wedding anniversary. We were celebrating at their favorite restaurant. Claire arrived with Ben, dressed in the same white gown Isabel had worn at our wedding, the same one she'd worn that day. Turns out, she'd bought duplicates. From that point on, I started scanning for her car everywhere I went. During a lunch break, I spotted it parked across from our building. She was inside, photographing our home from various angles. I pulled out my phone and documented everything. Then came the LinkedIn invasion. Isabel's profile was bombarded with connection requests, mostly from Claire's friends. Every message carried some concern or probing question about our marriage. Some were warnings. Others were thinly veiled attacks. Sarah called again, crying harder this time. Claire had convinced Sarah that Isabel broke girl code by being with me. The manipulation was getting to people, even those who should have known better. After one game, Ben pulled me aside. Claire had told him I was stalking her, but her story kept shifting. One version had me tailing her to work. Another had me hacking her phone. He was starting to see through it. The painting class had always been Isabel's sanctuary. She'd attended for years, a quiet ritual of peace and expression. That was gone now too. Claire signed up. She partnered with Isabel during every exercise, whispering cruel jabs about her technique, color choices, and ideas. Her goal was obvious: ruin the last safe place Isabel had left. Then the pharmacy called. Someone had tried to pick up our prescriptions using a forged authorization note. The pharmacist refused. It felt off. The woman matched Claire's description exactly. Each incident stacked on the one before it. Each violation pushed a boundary just a little bit further. We documented everything: photos, messages, timestamps. We changed the locks, installed more cameras, altered our routines. And still, Claire found ways to slip into the cracks. It was wearing us down, just like she wanted. Looking back now, the red flags were all there. We just didn't realize how far she'd go. Her reaction at the Starbucks should have warned us, but nothing could have prepared us for the long, calculated campaign Claire would launch. The wedding was just her opening act. 3 days after I caught her photographing our house, a new Instagram account popped up: Truth About Cheaters. It featured heavily edited photos of me, taken from odd angles, without my knowledge. The follower count climbed rapidly,
though many profiles seemed fake or bot-generated. Isabel found the account when a coworker showed her during lunch. Then Saturday at the farmer's market turned into another ambush. While Isabel browsed heirloom tomatoes, Claire appeared at the next vendor stall, speaking loudly about her ex cheating on her with her own sister. She gestured dramatically, drawing stares from other shoppers. The vendor looked visibly uncomfortable as her voice carried across the market. The following Tuesday, I was pumping gas when someone tapped my shoulder. It was Jake, our old gym trainer. He looked uneasy. After glancing around, he admitted Claire had filmed their training sessions without his consent. She'd recently shown him the footage, making veiled threats about ruining his career if he didn't play along with whatever she was planning. A pattern of blackmail began to emerge. That evening, Isabel's mom called us, crying. Claire had sent her proof of my supposed infidelity, photos from my bachelor party, taken completely out of context. One showed me talking to a waitress, cropped to appear intimate. Claire had added fake timestamps and locations to twist innocent moments into something incriminating. Then came Wednesday. Both our cars, parked in our building's garage, had the word cheater carved deep into the paint. Surveillance footage showed a figure in dark clothing, hood up, face obscured. We filed a police report, but the officer told us, without a clear ID, it was just vandalism. Later that week, the building's security guard pulled us aside. He showed us the incident log. Claire had made multiple attempts to access our floor, using different excuses each time. Management responded by posting her photo at every entrance, ordering staff to deny her entry. Finally, someone was taking it seriously. But Claire escalated again. She began volunteering at the hospital where Isabel worked, telling people she needed to keep an eye on her sister. Isabel found out during lunch one day when Claire sat at a nearby table in the cafeteria and just stared. Then a surprising ally reached out on social media. Emma, a friend from high school, messaged us after seeing the Instagram account. She revealed that Claire had done something eerily similar to her ex years ago. The harassment lasted 2 years, until they finally secured a restraining order. The pattern was clear. Ben, the basketball teammate Claire had dated, broke it off after she demanded he quit the league to avoid me. He'd watched her behavior unravel, checking his phone constantly, interrogating every interaction, making wild demands. Her facade was cracking. The maintenance visit caught us off guard. Claire arrived with a building worker, claiming she left a bracelet in our apartment months ago. The maintenance guy looked uncomfortable as she rummaged through drawers. She clearly wasn't looking for anything, just trying to invade our home legally, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. Then Sarah came by. She brought her laptop and shaking hands. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, eyes full of regret. She'd been getting messages from Claire nearly every day since we announced our engagement. Rants, spirals, each one more disturbing than the last. The obsession had been festering long before we realized it. But the most chilling warning came from someone unexpected. Becca, Claire's current roommate, reached out through a mutual friend. We met her at a quiet coffee shop across town. She kept looking over her shoulder as she spoke. She described Claire's bedroom. The walls, she said, were covered in our wedding photos. Every image of me scratched out, defaced. She offered to photograph the room for documentation. Then came the wine bar incident. Isabel and I were out, trying to enjoy a quiet night. Claire walked in with a new date, a lawyer. He made loud comments about defamation lawsuits, always just within earshot. They sat in direct line of sight. Claire smirked through the entire dinner. The next morning, my mom called. Her voice was shaken. She'd received something from Claire too, something meant to worry her.
Claire had contacted my mother, crying, rambling about how she still loved me. She'd spun a whole saga about our relationship, insisting I'd promised to come back to her. My mom was confused and unsettled until I explained the truth. Then, the photos from Becca arrived. Encrypted, discreet, and chilling. Claire's bedroom looked like something from a psychological thriller. Walls, furniture, and even the ceiling plastered with wedding photos.
Most were annotated with obsessive notes and chaotic scrawls. The timeline showed her fixation had begun long before Isabel and I got married. Some images dated back to when Claire and I were still a couple. Building management finally agreed to issue a formal ban after reviewing our full cache of security footage. The property manager's face shifted as he watched. The scale of the documentation, time-stamped videos, photographs, logs, seemed to unnerve him. Official trespass warnings were posted and distributed. We knew it wouldn't stop her, but it was something. Emma met us for coffee to share everything. Her story of Claire's harassment mirrored ours. Fake social accounts, showing up at her job, surveillance from parked cars. Emma's boyfriend at the time ended up transferring schools to get away. Claire had just moved on to a new target. The pattern stretched back 10 years. That's when Sarah created a group chat called Team Isabel. After speaking with a lawyer friend, she learned that a restraining order would require documentation of direct threats or physical danger. Evidence would be key. So everyone began saving everything, every message, every email, every voicemail. Then Tyler reached out. While moving out of the apartment he'd shared with Claire, he discovered a hidden phone tucked in the back of her closet. On it were hours of video footage. Claire rehearsing arguments with an imaginary version of me, practicing confrontations, working herself into full-blown rages over fabricated betrayals. We shifted our focus from defense to deterrence. New locks, more cameras, changed routines. We didn't retaliate or respond. It was difficult, but Isabel insisted we hold the high ground. Integrity mattered more than vindication. Then came the Whole Foods confrontation. Claire trailed us through the produce section, one aisle after another. When a store employee finally asked if there was a problem, Claire snapped. Mid-rant, she blurted out her involvement in the car vandalism. "I did it because I wanted justice," not realizing who was listening. The employee's expression shifted from concern to horror. Jake later gave us security footage from the gym. It showed Claire lingering, pretending to work out, but always watching, always recording. The timestamps went back months, long before she sent the cheating video. Everything had been staged, controlled, measured. Then something unexpected happened. Mike, Tyler, and Jake began meeting regularly, swapping notes, comparing timelines. Each had been manipulated by Claire in a different way. Each had been threatened, pressured, or stalked. They started warning others, especially men who seemed to fall into her orbit. And then, finally, Claire's mother called Isabel. Her voice was tired, hollow. She admitted this wasn't the first time. There had been breakdowns in high school, incidents in college. They'd hoped she would grow out of it. They never intervened. The family's pattern of enabling was undeniable. Security at my workplace was quietly increased after Claire tried to gain access using a fake ID. She claimed she was delivering important documents. Footage showed her trying several entrances across multiple days. HR reviewed everything and took it seriously. The final blow came on a Thursday night. Claire cornered Isabel alone in the hospital parking garage. She admitted outright she had practiced crashing the wedding for weeks, bought multiple white dresses, rehearsed her grand entrance. She'd planned every step like a performance. After that, Isabel's coworkers created an unofficial security watch. Claire's photo was distributed to staff and hospital security. Her volunteer application was revoked and administration banned her from the premises entirely. Then, the Instagram account vanished. Our network had mass reported it, finally triggering the platform's response. Claire's digital smear campaign crumbled, but we knew another would take its place. Emma disclosed even more. Claire's ex-boyfriend from college had transferred to get away. She'd inserted herself into his friend circles, sabotaged his reputation, destroyed his peace. The obsession, the control, it stretched back a decade. We weren't special. We were just the latest victims. We installed a full-scale security system and held a meeting with neighbors. Most had witnessed something strange already. Once they understood the context, they were quick to offer support. Community awareness became our final line of defense.
The book club collectively disinvited Claire after she brought printed copies of anonymous emails to a meeting, trying to turn the group against Isabel. She presented manufactured evidence, spinning another of her stories. But the members saw through it. Instead of isolating Isabel, they closed ranks around her. Claire's attempts to infiltrate the hospital didn't stop, even after the formal ban. Security logged multiple incidents. She showed up claiming to visit sick relatives, deliver flowers, or apply for positions she had no qualifications for. Each attempt was a new pretense. The meltdown at the restaurant happened during Isabel's parents' monthly dinner. They'd chosen a spot across town, thinking it would keep Claire away, but she showed up anyway. When she spotted us at the table, her reaction was volcanic. She screamed about betrayal, while other diners fell silent. That night, Isabel's father finally saw her for who she really was. My own standing at work quietly improved. Colleagues began to witness Claire's harassment firsthand. Her random calls and visits had the opposite effect she'd intended. People supported me, offered empathy, and backed away from her. One of our tech-savvy friends traced the anonymous emails. The IP logs pointed directly to Claire. Hundreds of messages had come from her devices. We added that data to our growing evidence file. Then the eviction notice arrived. After repeated complaints from neighbors, late-night disturbances, suspicious visitors, aggressive behavior, her apartment complex issued a 30-day vacate order. The clock began ticking. At Isabel's art class, Claire crossed the final line. She berated Isabel during a session, attacking her brush strokes, color choices, and technique in front of the entire group. The instructor, who had given her multiple chances, finally revoked her enrollment. She was banned from the class. It became clear, defensive tactics weren't enough. The harassment continued to escalate. We needed a more structured response. Our evidence file had grown thick enough to wallpaper a room, so we shifted strategy. No more reacting emotionally. Every time she provoked us, we responded with documentation, quietly, methodically. Each new escalation added to the record. It was exhausting, all of it. Especially knowing this wasn't just about us. Claire had done this before. Others were still living with the aftermath. Her frustration became visible. Her efforts weren't yielding the dramatic confrontations she wanted, the attention she craved. She was unraveling in real time. The extended family group chat held a vote. Claire was out. No more invites, no more events. Cousins shared uncomfortable stories. Aunts and uncles admitted they had been avoiding gatherings for years because of her. The family fracture was complete. Word about the wedding dress stunt spread through social circles. Friends were horrified by the cruelty. Her social standing eroded. Even casual acquaintances began to distance themselves. A week of silence felt surreal. Claire scrambled to find new housing while we kept to our normal routines. The security camera showed only the usual: neighbors walking dogs, delivery vans pulling up. Nothing unusual. The stillness felt eerie. Then came her desperate play. She called Isabel's work phone, claiming to have overdosed, crying, saying she needed help. But the background was full of party sounds, music, laughter, shouting. It was an obvious manipulation. Isabel called 911 anyway, choosing to let professionals assess the situation. Security inside the hospital responded swiftly. Claire had been testing entrances, trying to access employee parking through side gates and service alleys. The security team restructured their protocols. They took it seriously. Then we saw it. A moving truck outside Claire's building. Neighbors reported seeing boxes loaded, furniture removed. We watched from a distance, unsure where she was going, but hoping it was far, and maybe final. With her gone, family relations began to heal. Isabel's parents apologized for their delay in seeing the truth. Cousins reached out with encouragement. The family, fractured for so long, began to unite against a common threat. Even Claire's exes formed a kind of support group. More victims surfaced, stories that mirrored our own. Manipulation, obsession, ruined reputations, a pattern stretching back years. We were never her first targets, just the current ones. Finally, our detailed police report got the attention it deserved. A detective reviewed the file. Photos, video evidence, messages, testimony. The scope impressed him. The pattern, supported by earlier reports from past victims, was too clear to ignore. For the first time, it felt like someone might actually do something.
The breakthrough came from Claire's former therapist. Contacted by her concerned mother, they confirmed the behavioral pattern, within the limits of legal and ethical disclosure. Still, the professional validation of everything we'd endured felt like long overdue vindication. More truth surfaced when Claire's college roommate reached out. She had filed a restraining order during their sophomore year after escalating harassment. The documentation from that case mirrored our experience almost exactly. The pattern was undeniable, pathological. Our support network compiled a comprehensive evidence file. Every incident, every witness, every photo, message, and video arranged in chronological order. It was no longer anecdotal. It was irrefutable proof of calculated, sustained harassment. With legal options clearer, a lawyer friend helped us draft a cease and desist letter. The language was firm, not inflammatory. We gave Claire a choice: stop or face legal consequences. The ball was in her court. Claire's parents attempted an intervention at a neutral location. We heard later she'd stormed out, furious, defiant, refusing to acknowledge any wrongdoing. Her parents looked defeated. They were starting to accept the truth. Their daughter needed more help than they could give. Then came the fake pregnancy announcement. Claire posted it on social media, claiming I was the father, despite the timeline making that biologically impossible. The lie was transparent to anyone close to us, but rumors still swirled. Social media backlash followed, as it always does. Some mutual acquaintances, unaware of the full history, wondered aloud if there was another side. Gaslighting once again obscured reality. I had to defend us alone. Isabel had been called in for emergency surgery, a real crisis, not one of Claire's staged ones. The timing felt suspicious, but it was coincidence. Still, the emotional toll was brutal. We held firm. Our trust survived the strain. Eventually, we made the difficult decision to go public. We had protected Claire's reputation for too long, hoping she'd seek help quietly. But the fake pregnancy crossed a final line. Silence no longer felt like protection. It felt like complicity. So, we told the truth. We posted a timeline, key documents, screenshots, just the facts. No dramatization, no insults, just truth. The response was immediate, overwhelming. People had been waiting for someone to speak out. Former friends, classmates, colleagues, they came forward with their own stories. Suddenly, it was clear how many had suffered quietly. The final confrontation happened in the lobby of our building. Claire arrived with a moving truck and her parents. She swung between sobbing apologies and venomous accusations. Her emotional unraveling was visible to everyone present. Then her father said something that explained so much. Claire had been offered psychiatric medication months ago and refused. The timeline of her breakdown matched perfectly. Mental illness doesn't excuse her behavior, but it offered needed context. The building manager arrived with security and the formal trespass notice. Now there was no ambiguity. Claire couldn't claim she didn't understand. She was legally banned and the boundary was enforceable. We had a choice to make. With everything documented, we could press criminal charges, but Isabel's compassion outweighed my anger. We offered her an alternative. No charges if she agreed to enter treatment. Mercy is harder than revenge, but it was the right thing to do. Her parents presented the ultimatum: inpatient treatment or be completely cut off from family support. The moment had finally come. Rock bottom. Claire's last act was one final manipulation, threatening self-harm in the lobby. We didn't try to reason with her. We called 911. Let the professionals step in. Her parents looked relieved as first responders arrived. The scene was gut-wrenching. Claire screaming about betrayal and abandonment, her parents guiding her toward the car. Neighbors peered out from their doors. The final chapter was unfolding in real time. From our apartment window, we watched them drive away. Her parents mentioned a treatment center 2 hours outside the city. a facility tailored to her specific needs. The physical distance felt like the first deep breath we'd taken in months. 2 weeks later, Claire's mother called with an update. Treatment was underway. Medication compliance was being monitored. Therapy was intensive, progress was slow, but measurable. Hope, however cautious, had returned. Inside our apartment, we began removing the indoor security cameras. The outdoor ones stayed, but inside, we could finally exhale. The hypervigilance had been slowly wearing us down. Normal life was calling us back. To mark the moment, our support group met for dinner, at the same restaurant where all of this had begun.
The Starbucks where I had first revealed our engagement was visible through the window. Sarah raised a glass to choosing love over fear. The circle of friends around us had grown tighter through the storm. Tyler showed up with Emma, his new girlfriend. They'd bonded over shared Claire experiences. Something resilient and unexpectedly good had risen from the wreckage. Mike came too, grateful for the brotherhood that had emerged through it all. Isabel rested her hand on her stomach with a quiet, knowing smile. Despite everything, the stress hadn't robbed us of joy. A new chapter was beginning. We were ready to build a life without fear. Claire's campaign had failed. She hadn't broken what mattered most. The next morning, a courier delivered a packet to our door. The restraining order documentation from Claire's college roommate. Victoria, who had lived with her sophomore year, had kept everything. Police reports, campus security logs, eyewitness accounts. The parallels were chilling. A decade apart, yet identical in escalation and tactics. That afternoon, our support network gathered in Sarah's living room to finalize the evidence package. Boxes of printed emails, USB drives filled with surveillance footage, sworn witness statements. Our lawyer friend oversaw the process, organizing everything by date. Others helped cross-reference events. Laid out sequentially, Claire's behavior formed a clear and terrifying timeline, methodical and impossible to dismiss. The cease and desist letter went out by certified mail. We watched the tracking page religiously. When she signed for it at her temporary housing, we felt both relief and tension. The message was clear: cease all contact or face criminal prosecution. The appendix of evidence alone was 40 pages long. Claire's parents arranged another intervention, this time at a local community center. We weren't invited, but later heard what happened from Isabel's mom. Claire had arrived expecting a discussion about rent or logistics. Instead, she found her parents, 2 aunts, and a licensed counselor waiting. It lasted less than 20 minutes before she erupted and stormed out. Then came the second fake pregnancy stunt. 3 different social media platforms, coordinated release. Claire posted altered ultrasound images, fake appointment confirmations, and invented timelines. The dates were absurd. We had been on different continents during the supposed conception window. Still, the shockwaves spread. Mutual acquaintances paused, unsure. I spent hours answering questions, dispelling rumors, clarifying facts, all while Isabel was in the hospital undergoing emergency gallbladder surgery. The coincidence was cruel. Or maybe not a coincidence at all. I set up camp in hospital waiting rooms, fielding calls and messages, trying to correct the record in real time. The lie moved faster than the truth could catch it. Sarah took charge. From her apartment, she coordinated a fact-based response. A shared document listed verified dates, screenshots, and digital evidence. Team Isabel distributed it with care, every share countering Claire's story with cold reality. The social media war unfolded publicly. Some acquaintances faltered, people who only knew fragments of the story. A few unfriended us, swayed by Claire's victim performance. But others knew better, especially those who had witnessed her manipulation firsthand. When Isabel was stable, we posted our comprehensive public statement. We had debated it for weeks, but the fake pregnancy forced our hand. The post contained nothing but facts, organized clearly, screenshots, date-stamped security footage stills, statements from those who had seen and suffered. No anger, no embellishment, just the truth. The response was immediate. Messages flooded in. Former co-workers, college classmates, and even someone from Claire's high school. More people than we could have imagined shared their own experiences. Her pattern stretched farther back than we had feared. Each testimony added another brick to the wall of evidence. Then the final confrontation. Claire returned to our apartment building with a moving truck and her parents. Lobby security cameras caught everything.
She swung wildly between tearful apologies and unhinged accusations. Her emotional whiplash stunned everyone present. Residents gathered, watching in silence. Her father, normally quiet, cut through the chaos. She hasn't been taking her medication for 4 months. That's when it all started spiraling. His voice was worn, beaten down. Her mother stood beside him, silent, crying.
They had enabled her for years, hoping that love, patience, or time could fix what clearly required professional help. But now, that illusion was shattered. The building manager stepped out of his office, flanked by security guards, holding formal paperwork. This time, the trespass order had legal weight. Claire's name was officially banned from the property. Any future violation would mean immediate arrest. The boundaries were no longer suggestions. They were law. I watched Claire as the truth landed. Her parents stood on either side of her, security nearby, neighbors observing quietly. The fantasy world she had constructed, where she was the victim and we were the villains, was disintegrating in public view. Her face shifted rapidly between rage, desperation, bewilderment. For a few moments, something like clarity flashed in her eyes, then vanished beneath another wave of fury. We had talked through this scenario many times, and now the decision was real. The evidence was strong enough to support several criminal charges: harassment, stalking, vandalism, identity fraud. The detective had made it clear we had a solid case. But again, Isabel's compassion shaped our response. We extended an offer, delivered through her parents. No criminal charges if Claire entered inpatient psychiatric treatment immediately. The conditions were clear: full evaluation, strict medication compliance, and a minimum 90-day program. Her parents would handle all logistics and expenses. Any contact with us would void the agreement and trigger immediate legal action. Her parents presented the terms right there in the lobby. Claire had to choose: treatment or total withdrawal of family support and the likely consequences of criminal prosecution. It was her decision, but this time, the consequences were guaranteed. Rock bottom arrived in full view of half the building. Then, in one last manipulative attempt, Claire grabbed a pen from the security desk and held it to her wrist, threatening self-harm. It was theatrical, but no one hesitated. I called 911 immediately. Her parents backed away, letting professionals handle it. The threat had to be taken seriously. Everyone in the lobby could see the calculated nature of her actions, but that didn't make them any less dangerous. Paramedics and a crisis counselor arrived within minutes, calm, experienced, unshaken. They'd seen this before. Claire escalated, screaming threats and accusations as they approached. Her parents provided her medical history and a list of current medications. Even after everything, the scene was painful to witness. They had to physically guide her to the ambulance as she shouted about betrayal, accusing me, Isabel, her own parents, the building staff. Her rants became increasingly disjointed, slipping further into chaos. Other residents watched from doorways, finally seeing the full extent of what we had lived through. The ambulance doors closed on Claire's shouting. Her parents followed closely behind in their car. The treatment center was 2 hours away, a specialized facility for personality disorders and obsessive behavioral issues. The physical distance felt like oxygen for the first time in months. The lobby emptied slowly. Several neighbors came over with kind words, some offering quiet apologies for not believing us sooner. The building manager promised reinforced security protocols. The community had witnessed the truth. 2 weeks of silence followed. No messages, no calls, no sightings. The security footage showed nothing unusual, just neighbors, walking dogs, deliveries arriving. We stayed alert, but began to exhale, one breath at a time. Isabel returned to work after recovering from surgery. Our routines slowly reassembled themselves. Then on the 15th day, Claire's mother called. Treatment was ongoing, medication was being taken as prescribed, intensive therapy sessions had begun. The doctors reported what they described as a moment of clarity. Claire had begun to recognize parts of her behavior. It was a cautious kind of hope. Inside our home, we started removing the indoor security cameras, the ones watching over our own living room, our hallway, the ones we'd installed just to feel safe. We left the outdoor cameras up, but inside, we could finally breathe. The apartment stopped feeling like a bunker. It became a home again. To mark the moment, the support group met at the restaurant where our story had begun, the same one visible from the Starbucks window, where I had once told Claire about the engagement. Sarah organized the gathering, insisting we acknowledge what we had survived, that we celebrate the strength it had taken to endure and to heal. The group had grown. Some faces were new, victims of Claire's past campaigns, now part of a larger community of understanding and accountability. Tyler arrived with Emma. Their bond deepened from shared experience into something real. Mike came with his new girlfriend, joking nervously about his ex-problems and receiving a few knowing laughs. Jake came solo, but peaceful. He seemed lighter. The brotherhood that had formed through chaos had become genuine friendship. Stories were passed around the table, some heartbreaking, some darkly funny in hindsight, all threaded together by empathy. We weren't just survivors anymore. We were free.
Each person at that table had been affected by Claire's manipulation in different ways, but the patterns were hauntingly similar. Love bombing, rapid control, escalation, explosive endings. Everyone had questioned themselves. Everyone had documentation. Everyone had, at some point, felt like they were losing their grip on reality. The shared validation was powerful. Emma shared that one of Claire's exes, someone she had worked with in college, had seen our public post and reached out. He had transferred schools a decade ago just to escape her. His message was short but full of meaning. You're not alone. You can survive this. Life goes on. The conversation shifted toward healing. Moving forward looked different for everyone. Some found strength in therapy. Others relied on structure, preparation, and knowing how to recognize the signs. What helped most was the understanding that Claire's behavior had never really been personal. We had simply become the latest in a long line of targets. Sarah lifted her glass once more, to choosing love over fear. Glasses clinked all around. We had been tested, each of us forced to stand against someone determined to isolate us, to ruin our happiness. And yet, here we were, still standing, stronger, connected. Claire's campaign had failed in its core objective, destruction and isolation. Isabel placed her hand gently on her stomach, smiling faintly. Despite the chaos, something new had quietly rooted root. We were 12 weeks along, cautiously optimistic. The timing hadn't been perfect, but then again, life never really waited for perfection. Our friends celebrated with genuine joy, supportive, steady. The evening wound down with promises to stay connected. The storm had passed, but the friendships built in its eye remained. Plans were made for barbecues, game nights, baby showers, moments with no tension, just simple, normal joy. 6 months later, we hosted that barbecue in the backyard of our new home. The house itself symbolized a fresh start, peace, boundaries, safety. Friends arrived throughout the day. Sarah brought her new boyfriend. Tyler and Emma came, newly engaged. Mike showed up with his growing family. It was the kind of gathering we'd once feared was lost to us forever. Quiet, joyful, ordinary. Claire's parents still called now and then with updates. She had completed the inpatient program and transitioned to outpatient therapy. Her medication compliance continued. They'd helped her relocate to another state, permanently this time. A real chance to start over. The distance was necessary, for all of us. Isabel's belly was round now, visible under her dress as she moved easily from guest to guest. The pregnancy had progressed well, despite the stress of its early days.
We'd decided not to find out the gender, choosing instead to let some surprises in life be gentle ones. The nursery was ready, calming neutrals, soft light, hope. As the sun dipped low, Sarah raised another impromptu toast. To resilience, to choosing love over fear, to the family we built. Tyler manned the grill. Emma helped Isabel with the sides. Mike's kids played in the yard. It all felt exactly as it should, beautiful in its simplicity. Claire's parents joined briefly via video call. They wanted to share that she had graduated from her treatment program. Claire appeared on screen for a moment, calm, medicated, softer around the edges. Her apology wasn't rehearsed. It felt real, if not entirely whole. There were no promises of reconciliation, no awkward push for forgiveness, just acknowledgement of progress and an understanding that boundaries would remain. Her parents got it now. They had learned the hard way that enabling isn't the same as helping. Darkness fell slowly. No one was in a rush to leave. The conversation had long since moved beyond Claire, past the pain, past the trauma. We made plans for holiday dinners, baby showers, weekends away, all the rituals of ordinary life. The story didn't end with some dramatic final act. It just moved on. I stood next to Isabel as our friends trickled out. Our hands rested over her belly, feeling the occasional flutter of a kick. That long, twisted journey from the confrontation in a Starbucks to this warm summer night felt both impossibly long and strangely short. We had survived something built to destroy us. The security cameras still existed, but we rarely checked them now. The evidence files were stored, but untouched. Hypervigilance had faded, replaced by reasonable caution and trust in our resilience. Life found its rhythm again. And out of the trial, a chosen family had emerged, not bound by blood, but by truth, by love, by standing shoulder to shoulder when it mattered most. Claire's campaign hadn't failed. It had produced the opposite of what she intended: connection, joy, peace, and a future that finally felt entirely our own.
Instead of isolation, we discovered community. Instead of fear, we chose love. Instead of silence, we chose to speak the truth. The ripple effect of people standing up, refusing to look away, proved far stronger than one person's obsessive malice. The road ahead remained uncertain, but it no longer felt threatening. A child would soon enter the world we had carefully rebuilt, one held together by chosen family and earned peace. The foundation was solid now, built on honesty and protected by those who refused to let cruelty win. Where once there was chaos, there was now calm. And I hope your day is filled with the same kind of love, strength, and support these characters found. Until the next story we share, see you soon.